Oh, il faudra me donner un cue pour commencer, hein. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second screening of Gestural Topographies as part of the Undergraduate Student Exhibition 2021. I want to begin our virtual gathering by acknowledging that the FOFA Gallery and Concordia University are located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Ganyengehaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters we now call Montreal. I'm grateful to the guardians of this land for being able to gather with you all, since Jojage has always been a place of meeting and gathering. So the undergraduate student exhibition represents the diverse art practices and research interests occurring within the Faculty of Fine Arts. Collaborating at its core, this interdisciplinary initiative culminates in an exhibition that you can see on our web platform, cu@fofa.gallery, as well as through your emails if you subscribe to our newsletter. A publication and performance events, the latter which you will be seeing tonight. We have been collaborating with Florence Figoz, professor in the dance department, who made this hybrid presentation possible. The screening will be followed by a discussion with dancers and artists, as well as a Q&A. So Florence, if you would like to say a few words before we start the screening.
Yes, thank you, Eunice. Of course, the first thing I would like to thank FOFA, the FOFA Gallery, Eunice and Geneviève, to make this project possible. But also I want to thank all the students, the visual arts students who came in the creative process class in the dance department, and they generously, very generously present their process to the student in the dance department. And I want also to thank the student, of course, in the creative process class, because we all dive somehow in an adventure, not knowing exactly with path to take, because we didn't know how the winter semester will be. We didn't know if it was online through Zoom, or if it would be in presential. So the student normally would have performed in the gallery. But now we entered a process where it was a hybrid process, and the dance students, so they also work with video editing, and somehow this whole adventure also, for some of them, they went a little bit away of what dance might be, you know. So they gave another kind of proposition, and they discovered something else also within their process. So I wish you a wonderful viewing, and we're going to join you all after to talk, to have a discussion with the artist and with us. Okay, have a nice evening.
During this period where my body is so often on the screen. Work and a relationship within. So it's like a adding that other layer of screen to see how that plays. During this period where my body is so often on the screen. And how that is shifting my way of entering into somatic. Deeper into the self by way of self-surveillance and how that is exploration, trying to go deeper into the self by way of self-surveillance. And the body as a site of self-surveillance. I'm trying to go deeper into the self by way of self-surveillance. Critique of the body in relationship to God.
Mon corps est tissé from one story to another. Et je tends l'oreille pour entendre les chuchotements. Et je me tisse à nouveau. And I try to cover myself gently. To better understand what inhabits me, to see what's hiding between the folds. I make my own story and I choose to cover it. et je me tisse à elle, and I disappear again, to myself, to ourself. Et je tisse à nouveau. Je me transforme doucement entre les plis. Je porte mes couleurs sur une matière à écriture. Et je laisse ma trace doucement. I cover myself and discover before your eyes. Mon corps est territoire de métamorphose.
life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. Downtown, just listen to the music of the traffic in the city. Linger on the sidewalk where the neon signs are pretty. How can you lose? The lights are much brighter there. You can't forget all your troubles, forget all your cares. So go downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. No final place for sure. Downtown, everything's waiting for you. Don't hang around and let your problems surround you. There are movie shows downtown. Maybe you know some little places to go to where they never close. Downtown, just listen to the rhythm of the gentle bossa nova. You'll be dancing with them too before the night is over. Happy again. The lights are much brighter there. You can't forget all your troubles, forget all your cares. So go downtown, where all the lights are bright. Downtown, waiting for you tonight. Downtown, you're gonna be alright.
Thank you. Wow, it's always beautiful to look at it even after the second time. So I'd like to invite Geneviève to let us know of the steps before the conversation.
Hello, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in with us, and also hello to Wendy and Alison who just signed in to chat with us. So we also have like another sort of, type of engagement tonight, something special. Maritza Sean Cruz wanted to be among us tonight but couldn't, so also the same situation for Flora Hammond, and so I have we have different type of testimonies to contribute to the conversation, and so I would invite maybe Eunice to read Flora's statement just after I share with you Maritza's experience in terms of receiving the work from Eylül Bozok. So we will start with Maritza's video and then a reading. Eunice, do you think that would work? And then after that, I'll share slides of the works and we'll engage with the artists that we have here. And also Maritza just email to say that there's an interest in participating too. So we have also an extra guest. All right, I will share my screen now.
Hey everybody, sorry I can't make the screening tonight, but I did want to share my thoughts on Eylül's video response and dance response to my work. I was super excited to receive it, and I think, if anything, this dance really pushed my work further. I think it's really interesting, and I was fortunate to be able to have a writer and a dancer respond to the work that I made. It's just really exciting to be able to, amongst it all, collaborate in such an enriching way. I mean, there's just things that I find really interesting that stood out to her, and things that she picked up on, like that iridescent fabric was something that was talked about in the last screening. So I just feel like the elements that were pulled from my video really pushed and made something totally new and really strong. So I had a really good time collaborating, and I know that doing it in a digital way can be a learning curve and a little bit stressful, but I think that there's such power in being able to continue to make work in this time, in this continuing somewhat apocalyptic but hopeful time. So I really appreciate everyone coming tonight, and I hope that you've enjoyed your time. I know I had a really amazing time working with FOFA and all the other artists. So thanks again, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the night.
So I'll read Flora's text right away and then probably jump on the questions that I've had for Alison since you're here. So Alison, I'm Flora right now. Alison and I met regularly over Zoom to birth this project, which was very exciting, to be excited and have that excitement returned. The conversation was initially opened up because of a desire to find commonalities that will allow Alison to create not a response to a question, but enter a dialogue on her own terms. Through chatting, we realized we could see physical connections between Highland dancing, Alison's cultural background, and Korean traditional dancing, my own. And I can only speak for myself here from the perspective of somebody who witnessed this process, but I think she used her shoulders, her chest, to have a deep conversation with the hollowed chainmail chest I made. So my first question for you, Alison, is, do you agree with that last sentence?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it was lovely to have the opportunity to connect with Flora. I felt like in some ways I couldn't really imagine doing it another way, just with the distance that's already there. But yeah, there's their work, and I actually ended up working in the same space where they photographed their piece, which was in Champ des Possibles in the Mile End, and it's this amazing kind of architectural space, this leftover textile factory, and so that was like one kind of overlapping aspect of like spaces, and they mentioned like the shell of this armor, and then yeah, for me the architecture and the shell of like the shoulder girdle and the clavicles were something that was present in like guiding sort of directionality in Highland dance. And so there were sort of many conversations around that and about internal exterior spaces, spaces which have histories, and our bodies which hold histories and heritage as well. So those were all sort of points of departure, but yeah, I would agree with Flora's little statement there.
One of the things that I have in my notes that I had also for the previous screening, but we didn't have the chance to catch up like this. It was the derelict textile factory. I think it was a very interesting space for you to use as like your choreographic space. And I know you also made the dress that you
I did, yeah. I made the top. It was sort of Flora and I were like trying to find ways to collaborate as much as possible, and it like definitely wasn't simple. And we sort of had like many ideas that we kind of imagined a future as well for this collaboration, like beyond what we ended up doing. But at the same time, and I think both of us have a little hope that maybe one day it will continue. But we had talked a lot about the costuming in salpuri, traditional Korean dance, and these sort of long sleeves. And I was really inspired by the armor and the kind of like the lines of the shoulders. And so I decided to sort of, it was just supposed to be kind of a mock-up, like a prototype costume, and it ended up being this thing that I like taught myself how to use a sewing machine in a weekend, and it was pretty fun. But then it was really coincidental that afterwards I realized it was almost like retracing the steps of like Flora and their process, and like just barely getting little kind of fragments of the process, and then seeing, and then realizing and like looking into the history of this space that I had been dancing in, and realizing there was an old textile factory, and like all these sort of coincidences. But it seemed like there was a story there. So
yeah, thank you. That was great. And I have a last question actually for you. One of the things that I noticed was that, well, I don't know if it's Flora that we see in the background in your in the performance, Or is it Julie?
I mean, I don't think so, unless...
Okay, because we see you and then we see someone in the background that really looks like they're looking at you.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it's a funny space. It seems like artists have really taken over that space, and there's sort of installations that like are always kind of moving around. Like there are these like colored robot sculptures, and it was kind of different every time I visited back to the location. But yeah, no, I don't think it was Flora there.
Okay, because I see in the credits at the end that you have an outside eye. That
Yes,
it was Julie. So I'm wondering how you included Julie in the space that you've created with Flora.
Yeah, well, I guess like it was sort of this idea too of like even after somebody is no longer in that space, like their body has like left sort of invisible traces or within that space. And so that was something that was something I was thinking about even in terms of like this very sort of anatomical or like I don't know limited view of like the shoulder area and like playing within this like space or this architecture of like the bones of the chest and like sort of exploring these spaces and like the kind of resonances that have been left from previous dance training or that same sort of echo in space that bodies leave. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'd like to direct.
Thank you. I would. Just
sure. Go ahead, Florence.
I just want to add something because Julie and Alison, they both work on Flora's work. And but the way the interpretation is the way they got inspired somehow. I think it's nice to see how they use that girdle or the armor and how it connect with their own body, because as much as Alison, she went a lot more inside the anatomy. I feel that she went into the anatomy of the body. And at the same time, also in resonance with her past history of dance and culture. But what she did, Julie, is that she used the armor more as the surface of the body, and she used paper, which paper, it's not necessarily very strong, and she used it to show at the fragility. Somehow she counter the use of the armor, because she used it to show more the fragility and the vulnerability of the body. And I think it's really rich to see those two interpretations and excellent also work that they have done with Flora's work. So that's what I just want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence. I would very much like to start talking with Wendy. Wendy, I'm really happy to see you. We have not really been in contact because all of the work was done by Geneviève, but I really like your painting. I like your technique. It was great. So I'm really grateful to have you as part of this exhibition. And I'm really happy that you could be here because one of the interesting things of this collaboration is that there are a lot of dancers who chose to interpret your work. Mm-hmm. So I would like to hear you talk about how you felt about that and how you understood each dancer's understanding of your work and all of that.
First, I mean, for sure, it's like very flattering to see how like so many people were inspired by my piece. When it comes to me making the painting, like I never really envisioned having people like make something off of it or like be inspired from it. Whenever I do a painting, it's just like my own thing. So just seeing how all of this unraveled is very quite amazing. From what I've seen from all like the dancers, like it's crazy how the way they were able to portray the movement of the painting, because the painting is still, but you feel movement in there, and it's amazing how they were able to portray all that movement and that energy coming from like the characters and the whole environment. And even all the different ways they interpreted, this in their own way. Yeah, it's really great, honestly. Like, it's too bad though, like we're not able to meet up in person since considering all the circumstances. But I'm still very glad that you guys invited me to come over tonight. I'm very happy. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and for sharing your thoughts on the performances. One of the dancers actually included their sister in the making of her performance. So I think that was a very nice clin d'oeil to your own painting. So I was happy that this was included. Do you have any questions about the process or anything you'd like to ask Florence about, like how she asked the dancers to think about the artist's work?
Mm-hmm. I think the interesting thing was that the dancers had not seen the artworks before and trying to interpret them. So that was a very interesting thing that I think worked very well in their favor. So that way they weren't too influenced, I guess, because they were able to make up their own piece without being focused on like, oh, this is about like a little brother that's like a male. So like the dancer was able, like you were saying, to include her little sister, right? So they were able to take pieces and chunks of this painting and really interpret it into their own story at this point. So that's really great, honestly. It's just amazing, like, to have my work like exhibition this way. So yeah, thank you so much again.
I'm going to take the opportunity to speak with Maritza, who's here and has 2% batteries, who also interpreted your work.
My God, I have 1% battery now. It might just go. But yeah, that's me. Okay, I can just say quickly like what I wrote about for me, like the use of the when we had our talk. So that's why, like, when I heard that music, it spoke to me and talked to me about your story and also my story. And yeah, felt really like it was nice to just experience being strong as a tree, or like growing as a tree with all like that can mean. Yeah, so thank you. I'm not cut yet, but I'm still here.
Great. I hope you can stay until you no longer have any batteries.
Yeah, I just want to add something that Wendy mentioned, that when the visual artist encountered the dancer, the dancer didn't see the work. What the visual artist shared with the dancer was the process, what has motivated them. So somehow, the way the dancer, choreographer, creator, video, because they did so much, they enter so much a new also medium that they were not used to, which is the camera and video. So the way they enter it, it was more that the process and how it resonate with them. So they also could link it with aspect that of themselves, of their own life, and not be too influences by the visual of the artwork. So that was also the idea that was behind, and I think it worked very well for everyone. You know, the imagination was working in a different way.
One of the things that I noticed from the dance performances is that if the project would have been in the gallery space, we would have movement juxtaposed with the work. But with the video format, a lot of the dancers put emphasis on the sound and the music. So I think that was an interesting component that was added with the difficulty of having to do this project online. And I think this was like a plus that we didn't really see coming, but that was pretty cool.
Like, because this piece is quite large in itself. It's about 40 by 60 inches, which I think is about 4 by 6 feet. I'm not exactly sure. So like a big emphasis of this piece was that standing in front of it, you get the size and then the space of the piece. So I was worried that would kind of get lost in translation. But like, as you mentioned, Denise, having the dancers portray the imagery through their dance, they were able to really portray the energy I was trying to portray in this painting.
Good. I'm glad you feel this way. It's interesting because I feel like the last time we had that conversation, there were many more dancers, but there was no artist. So I'm really happy to have this feedback, especially that you're also experiencing one of the parts of the project that would have been in the space, but that can't. So it's interesting to see your reading with how your painting actually looks, in real life. I maybe have one more thing to add. Florence, I don't know if you have any last thoughts, maybe.
No, I think it's a great adventure, and I find also that there was it was also a way for the dance student also to reconnect also with themselves and to go back also with their identity, because from the work of the visual artist, there was a lot of the thematic and the motivation. There was a lot of that hybrid also identity somehow. So there was a lot of that, and so it gave also the opportunity of the dancer to really connect and ask themselves questions also about that. So I think it was a very rich process somehow, and also to make them even more better at video editing and understanding that medium, which is not dance choreography, 3D space, stage, gallery. It's something different. So that was great. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Wendy, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And 5 feet, when you said 60 inches, 5 feet, I can feel it in my body right now, because of course, the screen doesn't give that. So it's great. Very physical too. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Something like the last point that I have is something that was interesting for this project was the costume, or like the way the dancers decided to dress for their video. And also, why did they choose to dress a specific way, or did they have this idea of a costume in mind? Or, that's something that I've been pondering since watching the video. And another thing too is that for the purpose of this project, usually the dancers would perform for the public, people coming to see the work or people coming to see them. But in this case, they're performing for a virtual public, but they're also performing for a camera, because for a lot of the artists, it was just them and the camera, or the different types of screens that they used. So that's something that I'm really curious about, how it is to create for a camera rather than for a specific public. So I hope that people will be thinking about that.
Yeah, but I think Alison, maybe she can answer. But what's neat also is that some of the work, it's done by a cell. Sometimes there was no one behind the cell, so there is not a person. There is not another body. It's like different layers, I find. And sometimes, yes, there was someone else behind the lens, let's say, or that was recording. So that also, it's two different things, because if we perform and there is already someone behind the camera, at least we have some kind of audience. But if it's just the camera, then we need to project. But Alison, maybe I'm sure that would be nice if you can answer that question of Eunice.
I mean, definitely there have been many different projects, video projects recently where I've just been filming myself, and it's just, either my phone or a camera. And it's a very different experience. For this in particular, for this piece, I did have a friend helping me with the camera work. However, I was still directing. It was quite odd because, we were outside and my friend was there, and I kind of like said, okay, like this is the shot, this is the angle, and then she would shoot it and then leave the camera on the tripod and then step back 2 meters and then I would come look, and then, you know, it was this very kind of, it was a whole other choreography in itself. So I mean, it was it for sure affected like my sense of performance. Then other times I find when I'm, you know, filming myself in my apartment or outside or in the studio by myself, it's in some ways it's more intimate. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to see how the ways in which the body reacts, which my body reacts to the camera, and like my sometimes it feels like I'm able to be less performing to a public eye, and other times it feels like I'm so aware of this sort of virtual eye. So it shifts. Yeah, it's something to think about.
And was there also a part of you that actually performed for Flora?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in some ways also like for the space, for myself, like there were many sort of I guess present and not present audiences that it was, the dance was dedicated to, and I guess like searching through too, like it felt like it was sort of trying to hear in a way, like all of those different points and people. So yeah, tuning in.
Thank you for adding this, Alison, and thank you very much to everyone that could make it and everyone who participated, Wendy, Maritza, and Alison, Florence. It was really great, and it was an interesting experiment to have to do this online, but I think that I think it was a successful endeavor, and I'm hoping that the dancers had fun doing that with us.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. It was another adventure, and as I said before, we dived into it not knowing what it's gonna be, not knowing anything. But I think it was great, a really great adventure. And I because I've known the group of students I had this past semester in the fall for creative process, I had them also past year when there was no COVID in the studio, and I think that they discover a way to create, but also aspect of themselves that they didn't suspect to have. So in that term, it was very revealing, really revealing, very great. Thanks to all the artists. And again, thanks to the FOFA Gallery for making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you for wanting to do that with us. So I'm going to give the last remarks to Geneviève, who is who coordinates the whole undergraduate student exhibition project.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for the discussion. And again, yes, thank you to Alison and Wendy, Alexina for being here. And thank you to Maritza and Flora for sending in also their testimonies so that we can share it with all of you. And just a quick note, also something that I found was so interesting was Claudie's take on Wendy Alexina's work. The first video, Claudie is a dancer and did say that painting is something that is done more recreatively, and but something that is done with her siblings and her sisters. And so the playlist and the music, that was done with one of them, and each canvas was representing one of the sibling. And I thought it was really interesting to try to have this conversation with you through that medium that is not necessarily her own, but in maybe trying to understand maybe like the care and going through painting something for a sibling or about a relationship. So I just wanted to know, like, I don't know, like, how did you feel when you saw the video and it was painting and maybe not dancing, but it's a sort of choreography on its own, but, you know.
Sorry, just not
Okay, we're all living with people. It happens.
Yeah. But like you were saying, for just translating painting into like a whole different medium, it's because I have no knowledge at like very, very minimal. Sorry. I have very minimal knowledge in when it comes to dance and anything like very gestural. So like it was very honestly so interesting to see how they were able to portray the painting into something like that's a medium that I don't understand. But like now through all the performances by Maritza and by everyone else, like they were able to really strip down the essence of the painting and then really make it their own. So it's really great.
Thank you. Sorry, I just had like this tiny last question, but I was supposed to do remarks. So here I am doing remarks. Thank you for answering my little question. And so this is the last screening that we have for gestural topographies, topographies gestuelles. And so we're kind of like a bit at the ending of USC. We are going through our last newsletter, artist profiles that have been going out. We are always kind of doing a little bit like of a recap on our Instagram. So follow our Instagram account, FOFA Gallery. We kind of do a little bit snippet of like each letter, like who has been featured in the letter, and kind of a link of where to go to have more information. And then in March, ta-da, we will have the last bit of the USC programming, which is titled We Are Still Processing 2020. And it will be a series of conversations with artists about, we talk about YouTube, we talk about their practice, we talk about everything that is kind of like the essence of the feelings of the day. And it's a great way to get to know them in a way that is more personal, but also a way for them to zone in a bit more in their practice. And this will be coming out every Tuesday in March. And this will kind of like close the programming for the annual undergraduate exhibition. Keep an eye out. We'll also have a call soon for 2022, and we are encouraging you to looking at it. And yeah, I think it's that. Mm-hmm. I think these are the announcements. So thank you so much for being there tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.